Hey everybody, David Nagel here. Welcome to the Successful Mind Podcast. You're about to listen to a two-part series on the idea of faith and the importance of that in expanding your capacity for growth. Give it a listen and love it.
You're listening to the Successful Mind Podcast.
Successful people learn how to make their minds work for them. I'm David Nagel, and this is the Successful Mind Podcast. Hey everybody, David Nagel here. Welcome to another episode of the Successful Mind Podcast, and this is going to be a two-parter for you. We're going to talk about probably one of the most essential mindset ideas, principles, techniques in order to become successfwant we're going to talk about faith, but not like. And I hate to. I want to kind of choose my words carefully here because I don't want to tear anything down or even think that I'm tearing something down that might be in your background as far as what you've been taught is faith. So I'm going to say not a religious faith, but when I say not a religious faith, what I'm talking about is not just an accepted faith that somebody told you about, because I don't think faith works that way, right? Many of us I was raised Catholic. Many of us were raised in some kind of a religion. I mean, the backbone of almost all value systems come from some kind of a religion. However, if you grow up in that religion and you're just taking everybody else's word for the principles and the ideas of that religion without you actually becoming part of it yourself, you don't have an active faith, right? You have an idea or an intellectualized idea of faith that's passed down from one person to the next. And the reason that I say this is because an active faith, really does move mountains. It does things in your life that the average person would sit back and just be astounded by. Like most people would call it luck, or just being fortunate, or something like that, without understanding that there are solid principles behind this that people need to learn and understand if you're going to grow. I was working with my 1090 group. That's a group that I meet with every morning. And we work on the fundamental principles of success every day, 7 days a week. And I was talking about the idea that like perception. How do we perceive success? And how do we perceive success versus what are we actually seeing in our life as we go through day to day? We live in a world where all you have to do is look on the internet or social media. People are constantly complaining about all different kinds of stuff. Yet they don't realize that they're living in their great-grandparents' dream. The stuff that we take for granted today, our grandparents, great-grandparents, great-great-grandparents, they didn't have those things. They didn't have anything even close. I mean, we only go back a few generations. We didn't really have indoor bathrooms, right? People didn't have. Talk about people complaining about the heat this year. They didn't even have air conditioning, right? Very few homes had fans. I mean, we didn't have indoor refrigeration. The things that we have today are extraordinary when it comes to the support of human comfort development and moving forward. But the reason that I say we take it for granted is because we have to remember that what we've achieved today in the society that we live in comes from the faith of several generations ago. People that had a faith and a belief in a direction that we were going as a people and really began to push that narrative forward as far as what we've created in the systems and the structures, our ability to be free, our ability to be able to engage in business and invent things, for human consciousness and for the development of society. And one of the things that has come out of this is what we now look at as individual success. I don't think people viewed it that way 3-4 generations ago, right? People were figuring out how they could get through life. How do I keep my family alive? How do I keep my kids alive so that they can have children? How do I feed my family every day? Today, people walk around and they really say to themselves, how can I be a rock star in whatever it is that I do? How can I climb that mountain and be a multimillionaire or a billionaire or a trillionaire? How can I get my own private jet or my private yacht or, that beautiful house on the ocean? The things that people even think about today as possible were not possible just a few generations ago. Very, very few people lived in luxury. All you have to do is go back a little bit and you see that's accurate. But you also see that they had the mindset to work extremely diligently in the things that they wanted. And what I want to talk about today is the capacity inside of each individual in order to create the success in their life that they actually want. And what I mean by that is that you have to realize something when you want to be successful. Success does not come down off the mountain and come down to you and say, come up, right? It does not come down to you and then let you step into it easily into what you think success is. Success is always at the top of that mountain for the things that we want. And it's true, it's individual for every person. Not everybody wants the jet. Not everybody wants the house on the beach. Not everybody wants the sexy car. We all have an individual idea of what success is, but what is in common with all of those ideas is that it is a different, better, or aspired place from where we are now. And in order for that to be true and honest and open and an achievable place, we have to create the capacity inside of ourselves in order to be able to step into that place. Now, what does that come down to? Well, it starts off with this. The voice that you listen to is the voice that you believe. And faith is heard. You might want to write that down if you get a chance. Faith is something that we hear. And when we hear it, it's usually coming from the voice inside of ourselves. But you have to also answer this question. The voice that you're hearing on the inside, if we break down all the noise out of it, generally, is it telling you that you can do something, or is it telling you that you can't? Is it telling you how good you are or how good you're not? Is it reminding you of your future, or is it telling you about your past, right? Is it saying, here's what everybody else thinks about you, or don't pay attention to what people think about you? What is that voice speaking to you on the inside? Because when our minds are filled with lack, in other words, there's not enough, doubt, worry, fear, we don't have the faith to be able to move forward. Faith is the ability to overcome those voices. So let me just back up for a second. A lot of people think faith, belief, even courage is about getting rid of all of those negative voices, getting rid of fear in order to be able to move forward. It's nothing of the sort. It is being able to move forward regardless of those voices. We all have those voices on the inside of us. And especially in today's world, you can't escape the negativity of the planet, right? I mean, we've always known that it was everywhere, but all you had to do is go back 20 years and you could get away from it, so to speak. Today, it's very difficult to participate in the world and to get away from it at the same time. You could get away from it, right? If you decide to go live off the grid, you can get away from it. And there's nothing wrong with that for people that do it. More and more people are doing that. I totally dig those YouTube channels with people living off the grid and making it happen. And creating, solo businesses for themselves where people are supporting them to live that lifestyle. That's fantastic. I mean, if you think about that alone, that was not possible just a few years ago, right? You could live off the grid, but people weren't going to pay you to watch you live off the grid. And here's something else. This is something that I think is interesting. With as many of those people that have those YouTube channels and they're actually making it happen, and you look at all the different, how many views they get, what's astounding about that is that enough other people have enough interest in that really, it causes a question in your mind. See, I think that people want success, but I think people are getting fed up with the negativity. I think people are getting fed up with the lies. I think people are getting fed up with the dishonesty. I think that people are getting fed up with the game being corrupted, and they need something to believe in and to have faith somewhere in order to feel like it can make an honest attempt in doing what they're doing. So my point in mentioning this is that if you're going to participate in the world with everybody else, you can't get away from it. You can't get away from those noises. So not only do you have the noise in your head, but you have the noise in the world that you have to overcome. You have to get past. All right, so now listen here now. The voice that you listen to is the voice that you believe, and the voice that you believe determines what you birth into this world and what you manifest. The voice that you believe is what you birth into this world and what you manifest. You can look at anybody. Well, my mentor used to say it this way. People would always ask him, right? How do you know where to start? Because he would say, look, if you want to be successful, there's two things you have to know. You have to know where you're going. In other words, what do you want? Which is one of the hardest questions for people to answer honestly, right? And from a place of actually really having something that they seriously want to go after. You know, there's a lot of success. There's a lot of failure is caused by people going after the wrong thing in life. In other words, they go after something that they think that they should go after because everybody else wants it instead of the thing that actually stirs their heart. But that's for another podcast. But I just thought I would point that out there because there is definitely something about the thing that you want, being honest about that, so that, because I think that God gives you the internal energy and the enthusiasm and the courage and all of that when you're picking the right thing. But it's very difficult to have any kind of self-motivation when you get up every day and you're chasing something that you don't even really enjoy. So just keep that in the back of your mind as we go through this lesson. The next thing is, where are you? In other words, where are you in your personal growth? Where are you in your capacity in order to be able to bring in what you need to be able to move forward? Have you grown? Have you created a space inside of yourself that has the ability to give you the capacity to move forward? Because in order to accomplish larger things, you need larger faith. And in order to have larger faith, you have to create the capacity inside of yourself to be able to accept, experience, and grow faith at the same time as you move forward. Now, so there's part of this idea is, do you know where you are? And my mentor would say, listen, here's the deal with this. It's as accurate could be when you're looking at the right thing. Meaning that if a person says, how do I know where I am? Here's how you know where you are. What is the result that you currently have, right? So let's take money, for instance. Everybody wants to be a millionaire, billionaire, that type of thing, right? The question is, how much are you currently making? You want to know where you are in your journey to get over $1 million? How much are you currently making? How much do you make a year? How much do you make a month? It's very difficult for some people to actually look at that number because that number scares them almost more than where it is that they want to go in a lot of instances, because it keeps reminding them in their head that they're not good enough. But it doesn't actually reflect that at all. It actually reflects the opposite, that they just don't realize it. If you can earn $1, if you can earn $10, if you can earn $100, if you can earn $1,000, you can earn $1 million. The only difference is in time and frequency. That's it. You have the ability to earn it. You've already actually went out there and done it yourself, right? Especially if you've done it in business. That's even more evidence that you could get past that $1 million. But what people do is they look at the number and it reflects something inside of them that says that I'm not enough, and it just crushes their faith. All right, so let's back up for a second. If we're looking at the result, what does the result really tell us? Like, what is the truth? It tells us one thing. That's what our awareness is around our wanting to earn money to some certain level, whatever it is that's right for you. That's your level of awareness around money. You're not earning that amount of money because you don't want to earn $1 million. You're earning that amount because you're not aware of how to earn $1 million. But if you don't look at that number and take it seriously as far as where you are in your growth, then you do one of two things. That's a interesting human dynamic. One would be you downplay it, right? Like you have a number, you have a decent number, whatever it is that you're earning, but you think to yourself, oh, that's not enough. I don't really deserve that. I didn't do much to get that. That doesn't represent much. I see people do that all the time. And the other thing is they look at it and they go, I can't, right? Like there's no way I'll ever get past this. Okay. When you look at it and you say, listen, this is telling me exactly where I am. I now can do one very specific thing. I can determine from this point exactly how I'm going to grow. Why? Because I know what I need to start working on. Here's a for instance. How did you earn the money that you're earning? Did you earn the money through trading time for money, or are you starting to learn wealth principles around earning money, such as leverage, right? Nobody ever gets wealthy without understanding the principles behind business, which are principles of leverage and beginning to learn how to earn money and how to provide service through the idea of leverage. That's a for instance. But what's more important is that when you're at a certain place, you pick the number that you're currently at and you say, okay, now I'm going to use million just as a generality here. I want to go to $1 million. And you make the decision in your heart of hearts that this is where you're going. Instantaneously, the way to go, if you truly want it, the way to go starts to show up in your life. Things and people and opportunities begin to start to manifest in your life that are pointing the next step for you. So here's where the amount of faith and how we're addressing faith determines really what is this next step for me. So here's what it is. You cannot be where you are and go where you want to be without stepping in and becoming something different. You must grow. And in order to grow, you have to expand your environment, meaning that you need new information in your environment. You need new challenges in your environment. You need to do something different. And if your environment doesn't allow it, the hardest thing for people to do is they have to change their environment, right? Another thing is this: most environments don't allow it, which means that we don't have the right people, we don't have the right things, we don't have the right resources in the environment that we're in order to educate us enough and put us in the right situations in order to become successful. In the book Think and Grow Rich, Napoleon Hill wrote, there was this part in there where he said, the idea of starting at the bottom and working your way up to the top, he said, may appear sound and logical. He said, but actually it doesn't work. And the reason that it doesn't work is because when a person starts at the bottom, success can't see them enough to be able to lift them up to a higher place. And I'll never forget the first time that I read that. I thought to myself, success can't see you. How does success see or not see you? And what I realized was that there's a big difference between the people that are at the bottom and the people that are enough of the way up that ladder that can actually help you. And usually they don't intermingle, right? So the only way that you can get around the right people that can actually help you is to get out of the environment of being at the bottom. You have to step forward. You have to step into being more. And that's scary as hell. And it requires things. It requires that you meet new people. It requires that you spend more money to meet new people and to get an education. And I know some of you are like, well, I'm not going to spend any more money. Then you're not growing. You're not growing at all. When I first stepped out, I was on a forklift, and I decided that I was going to change my attitude. And the first opportunity that showed up for me was that I met somebody new. And it was because of the meeting of that somebody new and the information that they were giving me allowed me to make a different decision And you've heard that story on this podcast before. It allowed me to make a different decision that literally catapulted my income 3 times from where I was. But the story doesn't stop there. It just gets more interesting as I go. So that allows me to do some great things, get out of a bad neighborhood, buy a house, right? I even had a boat for a while in the beginning that I wanted. It was a goal of mine. I accomplished that. I was making decent money at this new company. But I also knew that there was more. And I didn't know how to get out of where I was, because now where I was probably about level with the expectation of the family and the people that I grew up with, right? Get a good job, stay there for the rest of your life, that type of thing. Okay. So I'm coming home at night. This is in the really early 90s. And Tony Robbins' personal power tapes are on television, at late night television. I would come home, I would get dinner out of the refrigerator, pop it in the microwave, and I would eat and watch whatever was on television for a few minutes and go to bed because I worked the night shift. And one night I come home and Tony Robbins is on TV, and I'm watching it and I'm thinking to myself, oh my God, everything that he's saying is about what I'm experiencing on the inside, trying to get to the place that I want to go. And of course, the answers were to buy his personal power tapes, which would help tell you how to get there. And they were $160 or something like that back then. And I'm like, oh, how can I spend that kind of money on this? Right? That's crazy. That's absolutely crazy. The first night, I couldn't even get out of the chair. I just shut it off and went to bed. And then the second night I came home, and there he is again. And I thought to myself, okay, I'm trying to convince myself to get up and spend the money to buy the tapes. I get up, I dial the 800 number, the operator answers, and I hang up the phone. I go to bed. Third night I come home, it's the same thing. That night, here's where I had to get to in my head. I had to get in a place in my head where it was actually okay for me to be wrong and make a mistake. I said, okay, look, it's only $160, whatever it is. The whole world's not going to crash down if this is something stupid or a con or whatever. Like I'm running all of this nonsense about this might not be real is running through my head. I mean, one of the things I grew up with was if it was that easy, everybody would be doing it. You can't get rich by reading a book, right? You can't be successful, going to seminars, stuff like that. And it's like, really, what do you have to do to be successful? But nobody could tell me because none of them were ever more successful than, their level lot in life. Anyway, I had to step in to be more me. I had to be able to step into that faith that there might be something else there and go after it. But I realized something that was both terrifying and turned out to be a blessing at the same time. And it's something that you all need to know, that as you go down this journey, every next step is going to ask something from you. Right? It's going to ask something from you. It might be money for seminars. It might be money for a coach. It might be money for access. It might be money to be around influential people. You're going to have to be around those people at some point if you're ever going to get out of where you are. You can't get to where you want to go by staying where you are. And you have to have the faith that every step that you make is moving you closer to where it is that you want to be. Now here's the clincher on this. Sometimes you might even be wrong. And being wrong is also part of the journey. Why is that? Because being wrong tells you what mistake you made and you learn from that mistake and then you do something right. You make a better decision moving forward. The problem that the average person has that doesn't succeed is that they're indignant about the idea that they need to know every right step to get where they're going. That is a middle class, working class idea because those people were raised with the idea that they cannot live their dream. They cannot be in real control of their life. So they have to make out all decisions to kind of play it safe. I mean, somebody else is in charge of their job. Somebody else is in charge of their income for the most part, right? They don't have the skills, the access, and the education to be able to move out of that. So the rules that they have to live by, they're not bad rules. They're rules that work for people that live in that situation in life. I'm not saying that they're bad. They're not bad. But they're not the rules that work for somebody that is going out learning how to create their life, where they master the skills of earning how to money. They master the skills on how to build a business. They master the skills of learning how to scale and learning how to scale in order to have the success that they want. But to step out and do that, that's faith. You have to have faith to do that. All right, that's it for today. I'm going to continue with the rest of this on the next episode of the Successful Mind Podcast.
All right.
Hey everybody, David Nagel here. I really want to thank you for listening. And remember, the faith that you expand inside of you is based on the voice that you listen in your head. See you on the next episode. Thanks for listening to the Successful Mind Podcast. If you like what you heard and you want to learn more, go to lifeisnowinc.com. I'll see you next week.